Yeah, we're so excited to be here. My name's Mary and this is Nancy. And we're going to be talking about a fun topic. I'm going to start with herbs, so we'll just talk about that a little bit. There's kind of a growing body of research that's showing that there are some healthy benefits for including herbs and spices in your meals. So we want to talk about making your meals go from basic to brilliant. So, so that's exciting. And a lot of times, if we have patients that are going through treatment, they need to kind of punch up their meals anyway. So I think it'll be really fun to learn about the health benefits as well as just the good taste. So one of the first questions that Nancy and I get is it okay to take herbs and spices in a supplement form or in a capsule form? And really, the American Cancer Society recommends that we have food first and the whole food and not have it in a supplement or pill form or capsule form. And the reason is because it's really concentrated, and also because it's not regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. So then we don't really know if there are extra ingredients in there that may confuse the situation or interfere with some medications. So we recommend having the fresh herbs, and we're going to show you some ideas for that today.
Also, we're trying to promote a Mediterranean diet or lifestyle, eating in the rainbow of colors of fruits and vegetables, and teaching us good health habits from getting the nutrition from foods. We're just not big on the supplement form. It kind of is encouraging a bad habit, of not eating our vegetables and fruit. So,
So the fresh herbs are really helpful. So how do we know if these supplement products are even helpful? Well, really we don't, and so that's why we recommend food first. There's a lot of information out there that may not be evidence-based, so we want to make sure that you're using the fresh herbs appropriately, washing them, and because the Food and Drug Administration is not regulating them, we don't know if there are other ingredients in there that can confuse that issue. Yeah.
And especially for patients going actively through treatment, these supplement forms can decrease the effectiveness of your treatment, and the high antioxidant capsules protect all cells, and the chemo is trying to kill the bad cells, so that's kind of creating a little antagonism there. Eating healthy is important.
Okay, so what about apple cider vinegar? We get a lot of questions about that, Nancy.
Yeah, so many people have heard that apple cider vinegar is helpful with weight control, but really the jury's out on this. There's not enough research to say that that's truly an effective thing that we want to encourage. I guess people were taking 1 to 2 tablespoons a day, and when you think about it, vinegar is an acid, and when you're drinking it right into your mouth, it gets right on your teeth, and that can break down the enamel in your teeth, and also that can then lead to tooth decay. And I also want to mention, like children, if they're into like sucking on a lemon or lime, that is also an acid, and dentists have said that that is also decreasing the enamel on teeth. So you have to be so careful. We prefer you use it in cooking. It's a great way to enhance foods, but not to be using it as a weight control. It also is an acid, and it can, if people have GI distress, it can hurt going down their esophagus, or if they have gastritis, it can be creating a bigger problem.
Yeah, so
just use it in cooking as a good flavor enhancer.
Yeah, that is a question that we get often, so
yeah,
I'm glad you addressed that.
Yeah. I was in the grocery store, and they sell it in these little bitty bottles, like shots almost, and I'm like, oh gee, and it was expensive too. And this, usually apple cider vinegar is not very expensive, but it was like over $3, and they were seasoned with cayenne and something else. I'm like, that just seems so burning to me. But anyhow, so we usually get another question too. Do spices have health benefits?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a growing body of research, as I mentioned, that some of the spices have some anti-inflammatory or even antioxidant value. So that's kind of exciting. So we know that some of the spices that we talk about in the anti-inflammatory category, and there's a whole group of spices and vegetables that have these anti-inflammatory properties. And what does that mean? That means that it's decreasing chronic inflammation, which means decreasing risk of certain cancers, cardiac disease, and also diabetes.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to focus on those foods. And we've had some classes about that, but a couple of the herbs, or spices rather, that we mentioned in that category would be cinnamon. So how easy is that to just add that to your oatmeal or to your yogurt with granola? That would give you some of those anti-inflammatory properties. Also, maybe using fresh ginger. It's not too expensive, and when you chop it up and add it to a stir fry, it can really boost up that flavor, which is also good if you're in treatment and you need that flavor boost. Another idea would be using tarragon or turmeric. And we like mentioning using turmeric in cooking because it does give a nice bold flavor, and it's a little bit different from herbs that we're used to using or spices.
Fresh turmeric where you just grate it.
Exactly.
Or, in a...
Well, I was just going to show that, there are a lot of different spices that you can use, but you can also use the ground ginger. Maybe you don't want to deal with chopping and dicing and you have to kind of peel fresh ginger.
Yeah.
So ground ginger is still going to have some of those properties. It might not give you as big of a punch, so you might need to use just a little bit more of the powdered form, but it still gives you the anti-inflammatory properties.
So that just rang a bell for me. If you buy fresh ginger and you're not going to use all of it, you can store it in your freezer.
That's right.
And then it's real easy to grate. It's kind of softened, but that way it can get moldy in the refrigerator if it's in there too long. But we're all being so careful now because of food costs going up, not to waste things. So yeah.
Yeah, I did read an article that the food prices might be going up 14%. So yeah, so if we can reserve that in the freezer. The other thing you can do, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute, is grate it ahead and then put it in the freezer.
Oh, sure.
So then it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about the health benefits of using vinegar?
Yeah, so I love vinegars. They're like such a great way to give food flavor. I like things that are tart, pungent, waking up your taste buds. But the big thing with vinegar is that it's very low in sodium, like really low. The ones that might be higher is if you had like a seasoned vinegar, like rice vinegar, where it has sodium added. But the majority of your vinegars are very, very, very low in sodium, and they're very low in calories. So they're good for weight control, they're good for waking up our tastes, and they're good for anybody with hypertension or just trying to minimize salt in their diet. So people who are going through treatment, sometimes a side effect is that altered taste. And if you're getting like a bitter taste, you can use a vinegary type food like pickles or olives, and it can help awaken the taste buds and taste a little bit normal. It doesn't work for everybody, but I've had that where someone said, oh yeah, all of a sudden it tasted normal. But on the other hand, if you have a mouth sore, then you don't want to do the vinegar or citrus foods because that could then be burning. So it's kind of that if then what's going on. But vinegars also, they're low in calories, like I said, and most are sodium free, but they're excellent sources of potassium, magnesium, calcium, and phosphorus. And the darker the vinegar, it's higher in antioxidants.
I had one patient that had a pickle soup, and yeah, he loved that, and it really gave him kind of a burst of flavor. And it was traditional for his home country, so, try some new things, see if they work.
That might have been higher in sodium, but, if it helps the taste, that's okay. So Mary, do herbs have any health benefits?
Yeah, we know that there are some studies that are showing now that herbs have some health benefits. So mint, for example, fresh mint, it can, we know that it can make your breath smell better, but it also may help decrease the acid reflux symptoms. We know that it can help with nausea too, which is really nice. We have the mint and ginger. We know both of those, even though ginger is a spice, they both can help with anti-nausea, which is really helpful. using ginger tea or mint
Peppermint
tea.
yeah, in the summer, because it does grow pretty fast, doesn't it, spread?
Yes,
So
you want
you-
to keep it in a pot.
You start looking for ways
Because
to
it
use
grows
it.
really fast.
Yeah. Contain
It'll
it.
take over your garden, but yeah,
Yeah.
make sure, but if you are growing it, that is one thing that it holds up really well because it doesn't need much care.
Yeah.
Another couple of items, we have some basil here and you can grow fresh oregano, but we know that basil can also help with, settling your stomach a little bit. We know that tarragon and sage will help. Basil may also help with decreasing cholesterol, so that's kind of nice.
And joint pain.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, as we get older, might experience some joint pain, so
That's
we're
right.
always looking for ways.
So one of my favorites is sage because, and sage is pretty easy to grow too. It really,
It's got the velvety leaves.
it
doesn't
does.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It doesn't take much and it kind of takes off. So, and you don't have to worry about it like you do with mint. But sage helps settle the stomach as well. And I can always remember this because a lot of times we use sage in making our stuffing, using it with cooking our turkeys at Thanksgiving. And what better herb that'll help settle your stomach than after a Thanksgiving meal? So
It's good in sweet potatoes too.
yeah,
Yeah, there's so
it
many savory dishes.
I did a recipe recently with squash, butternut squash and pasta with some fresh sage. It was delicious. Yeah, so
Nice.
it'll help settle your stomach and make a delicious meal.
So in the meantime, you can start making note of how you want to start your herb garden and what to include in it, because they're very good in cooking. You know,
Yeah.
you get use out of it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So can you use vinegars in meal preparation too?
Yeah, so a lot of times vinegars are used in a salad dressing, like a vinaigrette or a marinade. I remember my mother's recipe for making sloppy joes. It always called for 2 tablespoons of distilled vinegar. I always thought that was strange, but now through understanding vinegars more, it just helps to richen the flavor of foods and balances flavors too. So
Gives it that other flavor dimension,
yeah,
right?
right,
Yeah.
yeah. It can also be found in popular kitchen staples like ketchup, mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, so it's pretty widely in there. I was just reading too, like if you were roasting vegetables, not vegetables with a high water content like zucchini, tomatoes, but more like the root vegetables. If you
Yeah,
were
like a
roasting
squash.
them and you had a little olive oil with it, then towards the end you can douse them with some vinegar of your choice. It might be balsamic. I often think about like Brussels sprouts. You can cook them with balsamic vinegar and they like I roast
So
them
good.
first and then toss them with balsamic vinegar.
Yeah.
Really good. So they're a great culinary flavor enhancer, in cooking.
Yeah, I love that. I have a balsamic Brussels sprout recipe with tart cherries,
Oh.
dried cherries, so it's such
And
a good combo.
This weekend, I'm having family over, and we're doing that Saturday night, so I'm not doing ham. We're doing shish kebabs, and so I will make a marinade with red wine vinegar, Dijon mustard, a little bit of olive oil, and oregano, or not oregano, garlic, and just let the meat marinate overnight. And it helps tenderize and gives some good flavor. So a lot you can do. Yeah.
You have a lot of vinegars here.
Yeah.
So which ones are your
Right,
favorites?
so what ones to keep on hand? You could go crazy with it, so I guess I'm gonna start with apple cider vinegar is a good one to have. I use it, I make a corn salad, and that is the vinaigrette in there, is the apple cider vinegar. A glaze, having a great vinegar collection can help with the home cook. It's kind of their secret weapon for delicious meals. You can make like meat glazes, or you can reduce like a balsamic vinegar, which we're doing today. We've got 2 types of rice vinegar. The regular, it just is like, this is the regular, it has 0 calories and 0 sodium. And it's a light vinegar, like I would make a salad dressing with it. I have one where I do rice vinegar with orange juice and just a tiny, tiny bit of olive oil, and put that over a nice salad with like mandarin oranges in it and cucumber.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
bet it's really good with citrus.
yeah. And then the seasoned vinegar you find more maybe in Asian foods. and it does have, contains sake, sugar, and salt. So it is gonna have a little bit more calories and sodium content. Red wine vinegar, I wanna say, is probably my go-to vinegar. I like it.
Mine too.
Yeah, vinaigrettes and the marinades. I just do like Dijon mustard, red wine vinegar, and olive oil.
For some reason, I feel like it gives it a little more depth than some of the other vinegars.
It's kind of like more pungency, tartness, so
Yeah.
it really bursts the flavor.
Yeah.
You can alter the type of mustard you use in your vinaigrette to make it spicier too. Like here we have Dijon mustard, but you can also get like a horseradish Dijon mustard, and then Mary, you have like a coarse grain.
I love that coarse grain,
Yeah.
kind of a French mustard, because that
Or
gives it
German, too,
another,
even.
yeah, German, or like you were mentioning before, like horseradish.
Yeah,
That's really good too. So
Yeah.
mixing the flavors, and
Yeah.
you can really change up the whole dimension of the salad just
Yeah.
from the vinaigrette or
Yeah.
the mustard. Yeah.
so red wine vinegar is made from red wine, so that's where that's coming from. Then we have white wine vinegar. Maybe I don't have it here, sorry. I don't really tend to use that one too much. It's from white wine. It's light and delicate and often used in poultry and fish dishes. And that only has like 15 calories for 1 tablespoon. Champagne vinegar, this one here. This one, it's delicate, floral, light, can be used in salads. When it's combined with lemon and garlic, it really makes for a nice dish. A lot of the chefs, they say it's like their go-to vinegar. It makes really nice flavors in their dishes. And that is made from
You
sherry.
can almost taste the champagne vinegar. You can almost taste like the bubbles.
Yeah, I was gonna
Right?
say that is made from champagne, sorry.
Yeah.
And then the other really good one is balsamic. It's another favorite, and I'm reducing it right now. When you do a reduction, you can take actually, I just did that much, 3/4 of the bottle, and I put it on a low medium heat, and then just let it for a half hour, let it just slowly cook. It'll reduce down and be like a glaze on things. So we have a chicken dish we're gonna show you. But there are other recipes that put sugar in their glaze, or if you buy it pre-made, some are just all balsamic vinegar, but then some have sugar in it. So I don't want sugar in my, balsamic.
The balsamic glaze, I know you can buy that, like you said.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to reduce it yourself, you can
Yeah.
use that. You just know that it has
Yeah.
just a little bit higher of a sugar
So-
content, but it's so good.
You're just gonna pour it into a jar, sealed jar, and store it in your refrigerator. That I would put in the refrigerator. But the balsamic is made from grapes that are cooked before fermenting. It can be pricey, like the more expensive is gonna be more of the age. So when we were in Italy, we were tasting olive oil, and then we were tasting balsamic vinegar, and they really prided themselves on the aged vinegars and the flavor. And you can use it on like a bruschetta, drizzle it on, or a caprese salad. It's really good with tomatoes. I know sometimes our family puts it on their pizza. And then in a vinaigrette, when I was in Paris, they served a beautiful salad that had the balsamic olive oil Dijon, but then they took the reduced balsamic and drizzled the outer edge of the plate to make it look very fancy. So it's a nice vinegar.
Yeah, there's a lot of uses.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think it goes really well with some of the herbs and spices too.
Sure, yeah. So then sherry vinegar, which I was showing you, oh no, I don't have it here, sorry, is made from sherry. And then malt vinegar is made from malted barley beer, and that's typically used with fish and chips. And then there is a black vinegar. I've not used that type, but it's a form of a rice vinegar. It's made from barley, sorghum, and wheat. But if you combine equal parts of black vinegar with soy sauce and oil, it makes for a good dipping sauce for like pot stickers. And then, say you have a recipe that calls for like a raspberry vinegar. Well, they do sell it, but now you're going to expand. You're going to have all these vinegars, and how often are you going to use raspberry? So I would just make my own. I would use either white wine vinegar or red wine vinegar and put the raspberries in one of these little pitchers and then pour the vinegar and let it sit for a couple hours and let the flavors blend together. And then when I make my salad, I just pour the whole thing in with a little olive oil, because then you can eat those delicious raspberries that have that good vinegar
It's
taste.
so good too. And you can even use herbs when you're steeping, like you can steep herbs with certain vinegars. Like
Sure.
if you try one of the lighter ones, like you were talking about, I love that. You can have rosemary in there and just kind of bring it almost to a boil and turn it off and just let it steep for an hour or so, and then you get that nice flavor.
So I was just going to say that most all of your vinegars, except for balsamic, is made from fermented alcohol, but balsamic is not. That is made from grapes that are cooked before fermenting. So it's interesting,
Yeah.
So anyhow, Mary, can we use herbs and spices in cooking?
Yeah, we're going to show you some examples here in just a minute because we're almost getting out of time, but wanted to talk about basil. Certainly growing basil is a great way to have that for the summer, and if you start your seeds now, we're right into that spring season where you can start them, but don't do it in a very small pot. Do it in a bigger pot, and then your basil will probably get 3 or 4 feet tall, and you can actually use that longer. I always pick the leaves from the bottom of the plant. So basil makes a delicious pesto, which I did today, and we want to blanch those leaves first, so they keep that really bright color.
And how did you do that?
Yeah, so that you just take boiling water, just turn it so it's almost boiling. You dip the basil leaves in there briefly with a slotted spoon, and then you will dry them, and then they will remain that brilliant green. If you do use, if you make it without doing that, you'll see that it's more of an olive color. So it's kind of a nice, color is so beautiful, isn't it, Nancy? And that really brightens up our meals.
We were talking about that earlier, that you eat with your eyes. What it looks like entices you and gets the juices flowing, like you're ready to eat. Yeah.
So rosemary is another herb that you can use. We even use it in roasting. You can just put it on top of a roasting pan with your vegetables, and you don't even need to chop it up. Just throw the sprig in there and it'll impart that great flavor.
And I love to make lemon rosemary cookies.
Right? It's delicious.
Yeah, they're really awesome.
We've got a couple other here, but we're getting close to being out of time, so we're going to show you a few things in the kitchen. Rosemary, mint, dill, and lavender, those are all things you can grow here, so keep that in mind. And then we're just going to step back here and show you a little bit more about our recipe real quick.
I do have one question that came in before we start, and someone was asking, what was the last item in the marinade? You had mentioned red wine, vinegar, Dijon mustard, garlic, and one more thing. Do you remember what that one more thing is?
Oh, in the like for the meat?
I think
Okay, so I did red wine vinegar, Dijon, a little bit of olive oil, garlic.
Olive oil.
Yeah, and then black pepper is good too. I don't think I mentioned it, but
olive oil, black pepper.
olive oil.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
a little bit.
There you
just
go.
A little bit.
Yeah, and don't hesitate to add in some herbs. Some of that chopped rosemary would be delicious. You can even use pesto as a marinade.
So I just want to say real quick, you don't have to store vinegar in the refrigerator. You want to store it in a dark place, like in your pantry, and they really have a long life. I don't say expectancy. There's a long expiration date. But if you find there's a little sediment, sometimes you notice that with apple cider vinegar, all you do is shake it up. But some chefs say they just like to use up their vinegars within 6 months. But I don't think you have to do that. I would just say buy one at a time, don't stockpile it, and use it up and then replace. I do that with olive oil too.
Okay.
So okay.
Should we show our recipe real quick here? So we have lovely Sue who's moving the camera over closer to us, and I'm just going to show you quickly what we did with the basil. And we took the basil, and I think the recipe we can send you if you don't already have it, but it's mainly walnuts and olive oil and garlic, and then we have 2 cups of the fresh basil that we blanched. And you can see in here that it's kind of a brighter color than if you used it in without blanching. So we've got garlic, Parmesan cheese, walnuts, and fresh basil in there for this delicious pesto. You put it all in there. The olive oil would come last. And what we're showing it with today is this chickpea pasta. So, you know, it has a little bit more fiber, 8 grams of fiber for a 2-ounce serving. And it looks beautiful with this pesto. So we thought we'd show you how easy it is to just blend that up, put it on your pasta, and you could eat it just like this, but it's nice to have a little protein, right, Nancy?
Yeah. So I just have some chicken breasts here that I cooked up. I've already taken the temperature. You want it to be registered at 165 degrees. And then in the meantime, I've had this saucepan with that balsamic vinegar cooking on a low heat. And then this is what I get. It's a little bit thicker balsamic. And I'm just gonna pour some on. It's supposed to be like a glazed balsamic chicken that will go with the pasta here. And so I'm just gonna, do you want me to just keep in the dish maybe? Or
Yeah, you can put it right on.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. It looks amazing.
All right, yeah, maybe bring it closer.
So that way you can add, this is all part of the Mediterranean diet where we're using more chicken and fish, more fruits and vegetables, more of the plant-based proteins, because there's a little bit more protein in that chickpea pasta, whole grains in moderation, and low-fat dairy. We have some Parmesan cheese to sprinkle right on the top, so we get just a little bit of a garnish. We like our fresh parsley. We use the curly parsley as a garnish here. Ooh, I like those lemons. That looks delicious.
That's Mediterranean too. But we did not add salt to this recipe. You're getting the flavor from the vinegar and the herbs. And we have a few more minutes. So Mary, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was just going to say this curly parsley is really great as a garnish. I do garnish it while I chop it up and put it on top of a salad. But the flat leaf parsley, kind of like the one like a hand where it's just flat, if you chop that one up, it's going to have a little bit more flavor than the curly pasta. But, you know, I love the curly pasta texture. It makes a beautiful garnish here on our lovely Mediterranean dish. So, doesn't that look delicious?
Yes. From the audience, yes.
I'm just going to show you about making a vinaigrette. I do it less. It's supposed to be like 4 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. I do it the opposite. I put maybe just a little bit, like 1/4 cup of olive oil, and then I'll just pick one of my vinegars and put maybe like 1/3 to 1/2 cup of vinegar and a tablespoon of the Dijon, and I just mix it up. I don't like having that heavy oil taste in my vinaigrette. I want more of the vinegar. I was just going to mention too about distilled vinegar. This is a household item. It's great for cleaning many things, washing your floors, washing windows even, your appliances, your coffee pot. But there's a few other things. You might be using it this weekend with your egg coloring. And then there's another little thing. If you put 2 teaspoons of your baking soda in a container and add a little bit of vinegar, you can test to see if it's still good, your baking soda. It's kind of like doing a volcano. So this isn't, well, it's not too bad, but I'm kind of thinking, I'm going to try it at home to mine too. So it did react, so that's a good thing. So it probably is just fine, but that is a test for you to see if you have enough. And the other thing you can do is when you're boiling potatoes, you can add a little distilled vinegar to keep them nice and white. If you're boiling eggs, you're going to use an intact egg, but if it accidentally cracks in the water and some of the white oozes out, if you put a little distilled vinegar, it'll stop that egg white from coming out.
There's so many good uses for vinegars, and we hope that you guys enjoyed our recipe today and some of our tips, and we hope too that we'll see you for the next classes that we have coming up and some more Facebook Live. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.